In this video, we'll present to you the different steps of an academic research based on the different types of thesis that you can do at ICHEC. So whether you're doing a project research, a fundamental research, or an applied research, you'll notice that there are a series of steps which are very similar. The first one of them is finding the theme of your research and the objective. Based on the type of research you want to do, what is your objective? Are you trying to solve a problem in a company? Are you trying to develop research? Are you trying to understand the state of a concept? The next step, once you've identified your theme and your objective, is to define the problem. If there's no problem, there's no need to do research. There's no question to solve. To identify the problem, you first need to explore. Now, you can explore in the field by meeting people, practitioners, and asking them what problems they encounter in their practice. This will be extremely important in a research project where you really have to go out and talk to people about the problems they encounter. It's also helpful to do this in an applied research. But there's another important exploratory phase, which is going to literature. You need to read about the concept in literature, see what is known, what is not known yet, what are the problems discussed by researchers on your topic, to determine how you can contribute to them. This exploratory phase in literature is also extremely important if you do fundamental research, of course. Now you've defined your problem, you can move on to building your analysis. How are you going to analyze the data? This is what we call the method or methodology. In your methodology, you need to specify three things. What type of data are you going to use? How are you going to collect this data? And how are you going to analyze the data? This part, of course, will be much smaller if you're doing fundamental research, but very important in both the project thesis and the applied research thesis. Once you've determined your method, you can go on and do it. So that's the phase of data collection and analysis. You go on the field, go in literature, get all the data you need, and start analyzing as you described it in the previous stage. Then you move on to the analysis and the results. A very important phase in all types of research. Here's where you present your results and you give them a level of analysis. It is not enough to just describe results or describe what you've observed. You need to go beyond this. This is where your added value as a researcher is. Finally, you move on to the conclusion. And the conclusion of your research can have different levels, different dimensions. It can be a discussion of the results, and this is where you can take a bird's eye view on what you've observed and move on to next levels of discussion of research. You can also discuss limits here. What could you have done differently? What results should be interpreted cautiously because they could be different in a different context. Also, you can add perspectives here. What should be the next steps? What are interesting research questions to ask after your research? And what you need to clarify in your discussion and conclusion is your contribution. Now, your contribution means what does it change for the company, for literature, that you've done this research? How has the initial context changed thanks to your research? And the answer will be different depending on the type of research you're done. We're going to ask you what your contribution is to the field if you've done an applied research or a research project. How does your research answer the problem of the company? But we'll also ask you what your contribution is to literature if you've done an applied research or a fundamental research. How does your research help us understand the concept, or how does it add something to the discussion that was going on in literature? With these different steps, you have a master research, and we wish you good luck in doing it on your own now.